YouTube. This is Starter General TV, aka Mr. Vakabo himself. Back with another one. You know how we do. The grind don't stop, yeah? Anyways, we got a juicy topic, we're gonna be doing a reaction video to a pastor called sex trafficking minors in the church, That's some crazy, can't even say it. But this YouTuber is go by the name of Spencer Correll. Is it Correll or Cornelia? Sorry for butchering your name, my friend. Anyways, he's a YouTuber that exposed fake gurus, scammers, and, put them out there in the front, in the spotlight, so let's get straight into it.
And it's about time we start broadening our horizons. Today's subject lives in the Philippines and believes he is the Son of God. Before we look at his criminal behavior, we're going to have some fun watching other guys who also believe they're full of special powers.
There have been men, many of them, who claim to be a new Messiah.
In this ABC News video, we're going to witness multiple people who all think they're the Son of God.
But what if the second coming is here, now? Of would-be messiahs who claim exactly that.
This might be my favorite fake guru of all time. Just look at that stare. He has the act perfected.
And few are more physically convincing than a former Russian traffic cop named Sergei Torop.
Has there ever been a bigger job promotion than this guy who went from Russian traffic cop to being the Son of God? Hollywood spends years writing scripts for superhero movies, and they probably don't realize you have a real-life superhero in this video.
In the woods of rural Siberia, he is known as Vissarion, the teacher. And around 5,000 disciples live around him, growing their own food and feasting on his every word.
My whole body was trembling.
I wish this guy was on the Cameo app so that I could pay to get a shout out and a blessing from the son of our creator for $5.
The trembling is not coming again.
Just another food for thought. A lot of people, this is not the first time this is happening, in this generation. It's been going on for many generations. In fact, the famous painting of Jesus is actually Caesar Borgia. So, a lot of people don't know their religion history, but you go back and you do your research and you'll see the all messed up stories that goes into religion sometimes. It's crazy.
Well, it's very emotional to me.
If you're like me, your first reaction is probably like, how in the world do people believe in this stuff? One of the biggest weaknesses humans have is we fall victim to cognitive biases, where we have a complete lapse of rationality and judgment. A lot of my videos center around fake gurus who have the worst sales pitches, but the reason why they can sell their crap product is because once people want to believe something is true, it's almost impossible to convince them they're wrong.
Prove to me that you are a son of God!
But that is not a sentiment shared by Pastor Apollo Quibeloy, the most successful of the world's self-labeled saviors.
You could argue the biggest fake gurus are the prosperity preachers here in America and guys like Apollo Quibeloy who claim they're the Son of God brought down to the earth to save his people. If you haven't seen my video on the prosperity preachers, you have to check it out because these guys are the biggest clowns in society.
The official coming of the Son of God was in April 13, 2005.
Humans are incredibly intelligent. We can build cars, bridges, skyscrapers. We can write software that drives cars. We have someone that can win a Super Bowl at age 43 and someone who has defied the aging process. But somehow, humans can also be deceived in the easiest of ways. In 2021, millions of people still believe that someone standing on stage in front of them can have superpowers that they don't have and that this person receives messages from a mysterious man in the sky. Humans are incredibly complex and also very flawed.
He was an obscure evangelist from the rural Philippines until 2005, when he announced that God had appointed him Christ on earth.
Just like the prosperity preachers here in America, he figured you can't get the mansions and private jets by being a follower of the guy on stage. You have to turn into the guy.
You know what I realized? A lot of these pastors that are getting a lot of money, if you really take a deep look into them, they have all the jewelries, the cars, the jets, everything, the house, but all their money come from the poor people, and they're not even giving back to the poor people or changing the community situation. I remember being in Brooklyn and going to church and everything, all this negative, the youth is just not listening to nobody, a lot of shootings, robbings going on, taking place, and you have the church and they're not reaching out to no one. They just in there. You go inside there, they pass their offering basket around, they take it back, and they're not gonna share none of the wealth with you. They're not gonna build the community. They're not doing nothing.
Guy who stands on stage. The easiest way to do it is just to say you were sent from God, and if you have enough conviction, apparently, people will believe you.
His reward, for a pure life. Sinful thoughts, anger, lust, any of those things. You don't experience those on a daily basis?
As a human being,
Yes.
I have already overcome all of those.
Surprise, surprise.
Listen, don't listen to this man cap, bro. Don't listen to this man cap. Don't listen to this man cap, bro. Listen, at the end of the day, we all are human, and we all gonna experience all those things. Anybody that said they have not experienced none of those things or have surpassed those things are cap.
Surprise, the charlatan
Shake
saying
my
he's the son of God was lying straight to the reporter's face. This guy committed some heinous acts according to the news reports. Megachurch leader who calls himself the son of God charged with sex trafficking. Apollo Kibuloy is a close friend of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. He is the leader of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ Church, which claims to have 6 million members. This news story was a surprise to me because I've never heard of a religious leader committing criminal acts. I was under the impression that they all had special powers and they all shared their wisdom out of the kindness of their hearts. Yeah, totally kidding. Here's the indictment listing Kibuloy, aka the appointed son of God, as the top defendant in this case. The charges are as follows: conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, and trafficking of children, marriage fraud, promotional money laundering, concealment money laundering, among other crimes. This is partially a joke, but for the parents out there, which one do you fear most? If I told you your child spent yesterday afternoon alone with a drug dealer or a pastor, have we reached the point where the latter scares you more than the former? A couple things to know. Kibuloy is the...
Let's not lie to ourselves here. I know, I'm not trying to badge. No, I'm not trying, I said badge. Yeah. Said that, yeah. I said badge. That's crazy. That's a new word, badge. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I'm not trying to bash anybody's religion, but let's not lie to ourselves here. There's a lot of things that go down in not only the church, but in other religions or other religious figures out there that are able to do certain things and get away with it. Like from my experience in you know in the city, a lot of pastors, if not their kids or whatever, would like sexually assault the females in the church, in the congregation, and they would how can I say it? I'm trying to say this as sincerely as possible. They would feel trapped. The females would feel trapped because they can't speak out. They can't vocalize what they feeling because everybody's like, you can't say this because he's a religious figure, and you're gonna make yourself look bad and make the church look bad, and they never come to justice. You know, it's crazy, and that's how they're able to get away with many years of sexually assaulting people, giving people the smaller end of the stick, and they don't get caught.
The pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name. In 1998, the church founded the Children's Joy Foundation, CJF. In 2007, the church began operating CJF in the United States as a registered nonprofit charity.
This is why I am here today as the appointed Son of God. First of all, chosen from the fallen Adamic race to find the way. And through my freedom of choice, I am here being a finished product, an example of all of you.
This guy is a cold-blooded charlatan who ruined people's lives and yet still has a following of 6 million people. There are numerous powerful psychological factors at play that lead to someone like this having power and believability. I found an article showing when Americans become Christian. The pie chart indicates that roughly 85% of the members become Christians between the ages of 4 and 14. Only 4% of members become Christians past the age of 30. Usually the first thought when seeing these charlatans on stage is, how do people believe them? You have people who are indoctrinated into a belief system since they were young. That belief system was reiterated every week, and they were never given an opportunity to challenge that belief system because of the manipulative tactics used within the belief system to get believers to think it's the only way to live. This belief system is made stronger because if you obey, you will be given access to utopia. If you disobey, you will be sent to the worst place on earth. And
this is very true. You're like from a young age, you're brought into this world, and instead of thinking for yourself, they teaching you that this is how it is. This is God. He's your savior. Don't question nothing. Don't question the pastor. He's higher than you. You know, if he does this, and in your mind, you know, your logical mind, because everybody has a brain to think, they're gonna be like, okay, it doesn't count for him because he's a higher leader than you. He's teaching the congregation, you know. And I feel like if your religion is the truth, the way, you should allow people to think for themselves and decide if they want to, how can I say, come to that religion. And what makes it crazy, only 30% of people actually like read and study their like religion, their Bibles, their Quran. Not too many people actually read the word, you know?
that guy on stage just happens to be the gatekeeper for determining which path you go down.
There is no apocalypse in Kibeloy's message, no rapture or final judgment. Instead, he preaches that he is the model of Christianity, and as more people follow his example, God will gradually turn the earth back into the Garden of Eden.
Church administrators brought certain workers from the Philippines to the United States to spend long hours illegally soliciting money for the church outside of businesses across the United States. At the direction of church administrators, the workers represented to the public that donated money would be used by CJF to help impoverished children, when in fact the money directly financed church operations and the lavish lifestyle of church leaders. This image is the perfect representation of how twisted these charlatans are. He takes donation money to pay for assistants to hold umbrellas on a gloomy day, while workers perform hard labor right in front of him as he tries to look all righteous and special. Pastorals were young women within the church who were selected to work as personal assistants for defendant Kibeloy. Pastorals were typically between the ages of 12 and 25. Pastorals prepared defendant Kibeloy's meals, cleaned his residences, gave him massages using lotion, and traveled with him on trips throughout the world to include the United States.
Do you perform?
Hold on. Am I doing something wrong? This man gets pastorals, 25 years old, rubbing lotion on him and everything. Like, where in the Bible does it say that you're supposed to worship a guy so much so that you travel around and you pass lotion on him and rub his back with lotion, massages? What? This is insanity, bruh.
More miracles?
For me, the greatest miracle is the changing of that spirit within.
Pastorals engaged in sex with defendant Kibeloy on a schedule determined by defendants Kibeloy and Dan in what was referred to by the pastorals as night duty. For some pastorals, night duty began before the pastoral reached the age of 18.
But healing the sick, the man...
Hey, this grown man sleeping with 18-year-olds in the church? Boy, no way.
Manifestations of Jesus' powers, you're able to do that?
We have healing.
You are
healing and miracles happening.
Defendant Kibeloy and other church administrators coerced pastorals into having night duty, that is, sex, with defendant Kibeloy under the threat of physical and verbal abuse and eternal damnation by defendant Kibeloy and other church administrators. Defendant Kibeloy and other church administrators told pastorals that performing night duty was God's will and a privilege, as well as a necessary demonstration of the pastoral's commitment to give her body to defendant Kibeloy as the appointed.
This is a great example of what I mean. He's able to get away with all this is because he's using the title of being the son of God, a high figure for that community, because that community is probably impoverished. I feel like he's only able to get away with this because this community is impoverished. I feel like a person that is not impoverished, not desperate, would not be able to do this. Because a lot of people, and you know, I've seen this in real life too. They go into these broken households. They take in the kids. They trick them out of their innocence, and they do wicked things. I bet you this is gonna be from an impoverished community. I promise you. Watch, $100.
Appointed son of God.
After taking his place as the appointed son, Kibeloy's ministry has exploded. He claims to reach 6 million followers with his satellite TV network, numerous publications, private jet, and personal helicopter.
Pastorals who performed their duties, to include night duty, to the satisfaction of defendant Kibeloy were rewarded with privileges, including trips to tourist destinations like Disneyland, flights in private jets, use of cell phones, and yearly monetary payments referred to as honorariums by church administrators.
All the better to avoid the bumpy road and impoverished villages that lead to the walled compound he calls the King.
What did I say? I knew it was either going to be impoverished community or people that's coming from broken households. I called it. That's the only way these evil, weak people are able to infiltrate other people, because they don't have anything and they're desperate. They're just looking for a way out. That's the only way you could trick somebody. That's crazy.
Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Here is his 5-bedroom home, surrounded by manicured gardens of imported grass.
When in the United States, defendant Kibeloy stayed at large residences that he controlled, including residences in Calabasas, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Kapolei, Hawaii. Usually you hear about Americans moving to the Philippines because of the power of the dollar, so you know he was making bank if he was living in the Philippines and buying mansions in Calabasas, Vegas, and Hawaii. Defendant Duenas also handled fraudulent immigration-related documents for church workers, including applying for sham marriages and student visas obtained on behalf of church workers to allow the workers to remain in the United States and solicit funds for the church. The entire operation centered around bringing these kids over from the Philippines to help raise money for the church and charity. To do so, they needed to fake marriages, create fake student visas, and overwork the children in order to raise money for their lifestyle. The church workers were forced to solicit on the streets nearly every day, year-round, working very long hours and often sleeping in cars overnight without normal access to over-the-counter medicine and at times sufficient clothing.
So this is your Garden of Eden.
Evil man.
This is what we call the Garden of Eden restored.
It's easy to see why this claim resonates in a country where 30 million endure crushing poverty with open hearts.
The reason why spiritual leaders like Kibeloy can gain so much power while being an obvious charlatan is because people who are living in poverty or people looking for answers to life's toughest problems will look to someone who claims to have the solution.
To them, heaven really could exist inside Kibeloy's gates, and it's why hundreds line up to carry his parasol. All the workers who toil in the grinding heat of the kingdom are volunteers, here to glorify the Father. Do you get paid for this? Juju tells me he gets $40 a week to feed his family.
Defendants Kibeloy and Salinas would retaliate against victims who escaped the church by harassing, threatening, and making allegations of criminal misconduct against the victims. Scientologists are like, we've been doing that for years too. Defendant Kibeloy would give sermons broadcasted to church members around the world in which he would allege that victims who escaped had engaged in criminal conduct and sexually promiscuous activity and therefore faced eternal damnation in order to discourage other victims from leaving, retaliate against and discredit the victims, and conceal the sexual activity between defendant Kibeloy and the victims.
Minimum wage. And like the rest of the kingdom, he's expected to give 10% back to Kibeloy.
Kibeloy.
Hold on. So, he only pays you $40 a week, and you're expected to give back 10% out of that $40 that you're going to use to support your family. That's crazy.
Barely pays his workers any money, and then they're expected to pay back 10% to the church because the belief system they live within manipulates them into doing so.
This may be the most beautiful spot in the Philippines, and it's paid for by people who live on $2 a day. So how do you justify your life?
Hold on, bro. Like, yo, this guy is a modern, like, look like a GTA character, bro. Hold on. No. Why are they holding an umbrella over his head for? It's not even, there's no sun. Like, what? It's not even raining. For what? Oh my God.
Style.
This reporter asked great questions because he sees through the facade just like some of us can. I love the smirk on the assistants' faces because they know their charlatan employer will be confronted with a tough question.
I mean, your watch could probably feed 100 families for a month.
If it's not God's will for me to have these things I have, you can take it away. It is God's will that we follow. If it is God's will for us to live like this, you know, you can have a broken heart looking at me, but what can you do?
God's desires always seem to benefit the pastor. The charlatans I highlighted in my video all speak the same. God wants me to have the private jet.
You know what? I mean, there's no more for me to say in this video. Like, I'm at a loss of words. Like, people with power will always, you know, certain people with power will always abuse it. And, you know, I feel like if your religion is really the way, the truth, the light, or whatever, you should allow people to study it and come into it, that religion, by their own terms. And these people are evil, wicked people. There are people out there that are going into these impoverished communities, broken households, you know, trying to be a father figure, a mother figure. This right here, this manipulation doesn't have a gender. Either or can abuse the power of an impressionable mind and just destroy them. And on top of it too, what's really killer, and I seen this in real life too. A lot of people, a lot of females are like going through this, you know, and they feel like there's no way out, and they feel like committing suicide and everything because they don't have nobody to talk to. And this is a real major problem, and not only in other countries, but even here in America too. And that's all I gotta say for today's video. Like, you gotta watch who you put in front of you, and, you know, study to show yourself approved. Do your own research. Don't let people teach you, you know. That's all for today.